a new day, South Africa. We have voted. Now the counting is underway, and this is going to be a very, very long process. I certainly have to share a very funny story that just happened now. I open up one of my neighborhood groups and somebody opened their eyes at 6:15 in the morning and says, "Okay, guys, what's the final results?" Listen, hang on to your horses. It's a long way away before any final result is declared. That much I can promise you. So we are even going to, with a lot of caution, show you how things are doing in terms of the picture that is unfolding. And we're going to keep on emphasizing, remember, a tiny amount of votes have been counted. So tiny, in fact, not even 1% of the votes. We're under 1% of the votes counted. So Sakina has moved over to our touch screen, which is a fantastic thing that we brought about for you. But please take everything that you're seeing. We're going to describe it as much as we can, Sakina, in a way where people don't read anything too much into this. But it is still a great, clear picture as to where we are at this point.
Exactly, Leanne. But of course, the provinces, the provincial count moving slightly faster. So we're going to try and break it down. But let's start with the national picture, with the caution that you have just provided. Less than 1% of the vote that we are looking at this point. So, Leanne, if you could perhaps just give us an indication if there's any update and how many votes precisely have been counted at this point.
So what we're looking at is literally out of the voting districts, this is 0.94% of the votes that have been counted, 218 of 23,293 voting districts declared. So that's what you're seeing over there. We're not even talking voter turnout. You can't even talk about that at this point in time. And that's the picture you're looking at there, Sakina, and those are what the viewers are seeing on their screen right now. The ANC, 24,881 of the votes, which accounts for 54% of the total votes counted at this point, and it's a tiny amount of votes. The DA are sitting with 9,390 of the votes that have been counted. That's 20.26%, and the EFF 3,610 of the total votes, 7.79%. And remember, we're only looking at the top three right now in terms of the results that we have available to us.
Indeed. Okay, let's move on and let's break it down further. As we said, let's get to the provincial picture on all of this. So we start in the Eastern Cape, and what we are seeing in the Eastern Cape, we're talking about 3.74% here of the votes, 182 of 4,868 voting districts completed. At that stage, 17,754 votes going to the ANC, 70% at this stage of that 3.74%. The DA is on 11%, and the EFF on 9% with 2,283 votes. And this is just reflecting the top three. But Dr. Ronesh, you have a little more information after the top three. Who else is kind of putting their hand up?
Well, Sakina, I can see the EFF, obviously, like you mentioned, 2,283. The UDM, obviously a stronghold of the Eastern Cape is a stronghold of the UDM as well, with 686. That amounts to around 3% of the actual votes counted. Then Umkhonto we Sizwe, the party featuring in the Eastern Cape, bit of a surprise here, 409 votes, that's around 1.62%. Then Gauteng Mackenzie's Patriotic Alliance, wow, 221, 0.87%. I would not have expected the PA, but obviously there are coloured communities within the Eastern Cape, so I think that's where that support is actually emanating from. And then a party like the ATM, 197, and then Freedom Front Plus, 168. Action SA in the Eastern Cape, 96 votes. And just the last one, Sakina, PAC, Pan-Africanist Congress, a bit of support in the Eastern Cape, obviously relating to liberation and all of that, 84 votes, 0.33% of votes thus far counted.
Indeed, and just having a look, that's as we said, 3.74% of the votes counting completed there. So early days, as we say. But let's move on to the next province here, which is of course the Free State. And just taking a look at what's happening in the Free State, they've counted slightly more at this stage. I see 6.05% of the vote already counted here. And Leanne, just just in terms of the voting districts, 96 of 1,586 voting districts completed. The total vote, how many total votes are we talking about here?
We're talking, as you say, 6.05% of those votes that are in, and we can look at where we are right now. I mean, it's very, very small. I mean, these are small quantities we're talking about right now, but what you've got on the board is quite accurate. I mean, already you can see of the total votes, I mean, 4,532 for the ANC is where we're sitting at the moment. The DA is at 2,071, and then Julius Malema's EFF is at 1,061. So, I mean, these are very, very small in terms of votes that have been counted in there. So it's a tiny one. One thing that's quite interesting is looking at the spoiled votes. They've managed to put on spoiled votes in the Free State here. So far, 1.12% of the votes were spoiled. Valid votes, 98% of them. So a small amount of spoiled votes, but again,
and that
maybe
is a story that will change as well. But you will remember, Dr. Ronesh, in the last election, was it the, I'm trying to think now, was it 2019? If the spoiled ballots were a party, they would have been the 6th biggest party
they would
in the country. Yeah. That's how many spoiled ballots there were.
Indeed.
They had more. There were more spoiled ballots than the votes for the ACDP.
Crazy,
and those below them.
Amazing.
So
But Sakina, if I can, and Ronesh, I mean, again, you're talking to those parties that are just underneath here, because we're only talking the top 3, but the MK once again are coming through with some votes in the Free State, which is quite interesting. Freedom Front Plus as well. That's not unexpected, but just seeing the MK party getting votes again. I mean, it's still young, it's still early, but they've cracked over 123 votes there.
And Leanne, for me, the interesting part about these results thus far, obviously this is the Free State. Ace Makashule running for the first time, the former SG of the ANC, as well as the Premier of the Free State. The ACT, that's his party, 32 votes, 0.49%. Then Hlaudi Motsoeneng, ACM, Africa Content Movement, 22 votes, 0.34%. And there's just one more that I actually wanted to highlight as well. Forum for Service Delivery, 11 votes, just a little bit of, but it's making an impact. Obviously early days, but I think those kind of 3 parties we need to watch out for, especially in this province.
All right, and that's 6% of the vote at this point in the Free State. Let's move to Gauteng. So Gauteng at this stage, less than 1%. We're on 0.93% complete. 26 out of 2,797 voting districts completed, and this is the picture that we're looking at so far. Of that 0.93%, the DA has garnered 45% of that vote, ANC 28%, and the Freedom Front Plus at this point 11%. So very early days, less than 1% of the vote counted in Gauteng. But how are we looking beyond these 3?
So interesting. And again, Ronesh, I ask you to comment, because I look at this and it's quite interesting. Freedom Front Plus again, as you say there, that's in the top 3. Then that's followed by the EFF, 458 votes so far. And Gauteng is a big one. It really is. And then guess what's next? The MK Party. MK Party coming in with 269 votes. So they are very much so on the board there. Hope for SA is at 58. Action SA is at 58. ACDP 37, Patriotic Alliance 26. Bossa also, I've noticed them with a couple of votes as well in a few of them. Haven't quite seen Rise Mzansi as yet anywhere in these, but those are the ones. But the MK Party, very much so, always up there in the top 4, top 5.
You know what would be interesting? To actually be able to zoom into which of those voting districts those VDs have actually been declared at this stage, just to get a sense of where these votes are coming from. And I think we have that picture, and we're going to just quickly look at it. Of course, it will require us to go in a little more in depth, but as you can see, those little dots that you see in green, that's ANC. The others, this is of course in Gauteng.
The yellow is the DA.
Yellow is the DA, and as it says, we still on less than 1% of the vote that we are looking at that has been counted in Gauteng.
Yeah.
So that picture is still going to change, and quite drastically. Dr. Ronesh, I'm going to ask you to just hold that thought, because I want to speak about Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal together in terms of these battleground provinces. And looking at what's happening in KZN, we're talking again less than 1% of the vote completed in terms of count, 0.8% to be exact, and that translates to 40 of the 4,974 voting districts completed. And here's the picture that emerges of that 0.8%. At the moment, MK in the lead with 40%, 25% to the ANC, and the IFP coming in at this stage less than 1%, 0.8%. They are in third place with 15%. And
when we talk less than 1%, we're talking 0.24%. That's how low it is. It is exceptionally low right now. I mean, you can see the numbers we're talking: 2,000 votes, 1,500. I mean, this is very, very small. So, I mean, Ronesh, we cannot even read a thing into this. I mean, the DA have got 214 votes. If you want to go a bit further down the line, EFF 49. The ABC, that party's got 37, and the PA's got 20. The UDM managing also to get some votes there, 10 votes, and the NFP still there, 12 votes.
Yeah, National Freedom Party. Obviously, we expect the party to do a little better. New leadership at the NFP as well. With new leadership, maybe a revitalized campaign, the NFP can, claim back some of the territory that it lost in the 2016 local elections, 2019 provincial elections, in the province. But like we said earlier on, these are very, very early days, early results. Lots and lots of voting districts have not declared as yet.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So, and one of the conversations we were having is that, are we going to see some of the familiar faces disappear from the political arena and the different places? So, and the reason I say this is I'm looking at votes being cast here. Cope got 4 votes. So it'll be interesting to see if Cope makes its way back into the legislature or into the National Assembly. But in KZN, we can tell you, so far, they got 4 votes.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Limpopo to see what is happening here. And looking at Limpopo again, we must indicate, please, you need to pay attention to exactly how much of the vote we are talking about. And in Limpopo, as I said, Ronesh, you guys have to have me on backup here. But I've got it. Limpopo so far 0.28%. So we've hardly moved. Only 9 voting districts have completed counting. Only 9. And of that 9, this is what we're looking at. The ANC 42%, 32% for the Democratic Alliance, and the Freedom Front Plus at 16%. I'm going to run through the others and then we will expand a little further when we come back on them. So the next one is Mpumalanga. And in Mpumalanga, what we're looking at is 2.43%, and that is 44 of 1,811 voting districts. Of that, 50% so far for the ANC, 14 for the EFF, and the DA sitting at 14% so far. And then I'm just going to run through here, Ronesh, with regard to the next province, which is, of course, the Northwest.
So that's 2.19%, Sakina, just so you know, of the total votes.
2.19, and
38 of the 1,738 voting districts.
54 for the ANC, the DA 17, and Freedom Front Plus so far. Just a quick snapshot of what's happening here. ANC 44, 30 and 11 for the PA so far in the Northern Cape. And then just closing it off quickly with a quick snapshot. We'll talk about these more discursively later. The DA 56, ANC 18, and of course the PA 16%. And of course we are talking about a minuscule number of votes that have been counted so far, but that's what the picture is that's emerging.